Welcome. In this course, I'll be showing you how to model the iPhone 5. Let's begin by checking on my units. I've gone to Options, Document Properties. Here's the Units branch, and as you see, I'm working in the metric system with 2 decimal points. Okay, let's cancel out. I'll begin by inserting a sketch on the front plane. Now let's bring in a centered rectangle. I'll snap it here. And let's apply some dimensions now. I'll make this dimension 123.83 millimeters. The width of my rectangle will be 58.57 millimeters. Accept. And let's accept and exit the sketch now. Activate the Extruded Boss Base command. The depth of our extrusion, 7.13 millimeters. Let's accept the rest of the parameters as is. And now we'll apply some fillets. The radius of my fillet I'll make 9.15 millimeters. And we'll apply to these 2 corners and to the bottom 2 corners as well. Accept. Next, let's apply the chamfer tool. I'll select these 2 edges. Tangent propagation is checked. For the first distance, I'll enter a value of 0.22 millimeters. And OK. And let's insert another sketch. It'll be on this face. Right-click, New Sketch. Offset Entities tool next. Check here to reverse the direction. The distance of our offset, 0.25 millimeters. Accept and exit the sketch. Let's go back to the Extrude command. The total thickness of the phone is 7.6 millimeters, so let's enter an equation here. 7.6 minus 7.13. Tab to register. And accept. Lastly, let's create the LED display. Right-click, Insert Sketch. Let's bring in another rectangle. And let's apply some dimensions now. This dimension will be 90.39 units by 51.7 millimeters. Let's accept and exit the sketch. Okay, let's go to Curves. Select the Split Line tool. For type of split, choose Projection. Choose the sketch and the face. OK. And lastly, let's apply one more chamfer. Select this edge here. The distance is 0.22. And let's accept. This concludes our first tutorial on modeling the iPhone 5 where we created the body. We'll see you back in a moment. Don't forget to save your work. Welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll be creating the Home button. Let's zoom in on our model. Let's right-click about here and insert a sketch. Now the Circle tool. I'm going to drop my circle about here. And let's Smart Dimension it now. The diameter will be 10.9 millimeters. OK. Let's apply this distance now. 9.12 millimeters from the edge. OK. And lastly, let's apply a vertical relation. Let me Control-select these 2 points and then click on Vertical. Exit the sketch. And let's create a section view. Accept. Let's insert a sketch on the right plane. Take a normal 2 view. And let's activate the 3-point arc tool. I'll drop it about here. Press Escape to exit the tool. Now Control-select the circle and the point, and add a pierce relation. Let's do it again. Control-select the circle and the point, and pierce relation. Activate the line command now. One line here and another there. And let's smart dimension them. This distance, 0.9. OK. Accept and exit the sketch. Activate the revolve command. OK, let's select an axis of revolution. And select a contour. And accept. Let's create another sketch. Take a normal to view. Let's right-click and scroll up to section view. And let's place a centered rectangle. We'll Control-select these two lines of the rectangle and apply an equal relation. Let's smart dimension. This distance will be 4.3 millimeters. OK. And let's apply a sketch fillet. The radius will be 1 millimeter. Yes. Let's select all four corners. OK. And cancel out of the tool. Now go to the Offset Entities tool. And I'll select one of these sketch entities. The distance will be 0.25 millimeters. Let's reverse the direction by checking here. Accept. And let's exit our sketch. Bring in the Split Line tool. Let's select this face and click OK. And so ends our second tutorial on the iPhone 5 in which we created the Home button. Welcome back. This is our third tutorial on modeling the iPhone 5, and in this tutorial we'll create the receiver/front mic slot as well as the front camera. Let's take a normal to view. Now let's right-click and insert a sketch. First, I'm going to place a construction line. Offset entities. The distance of the offset will be 0.55 millimeters. Press the Tab key to register and accept the offset. OK, let's position the slot. We'll just accept the default dimension here. Now here I want to position not from the center of the arc, but from the arc line itself. And that'll be 23.88 millimeters. Let's apply the distance from the top edge, 10.75 millimeters. And lastly here, let's dimension the length of the slot, 9.6 millimeters. OK. Let's bring in the circle tool. I'll use that to create the camera opening. We'll place it about here. Smart dimension. Let's make the diameter 2 millimeters. Now let's insert a dimension to position it. This distance will be 6.07 millimeters. OK. And this distance here will be 29.28 millimeters. Let's accept. And let's exit our sketch. Activate the Extruded Cut command. The depth of our cut will be 1 millimeter. Click OK. Lastly, let's apply a chamfer to the slot and the circle. Select these two. Tangent propagation is checked. Enter a distance value of 0.25 millimeters and click OK. And here's the openings for the camera and the microphone receiver slot. We're ready to move on to our next lesson. Don't forget to save your work. Welcome back. In this tutorial, we're going to create the SleepWake button. Let's insert a new sketch. Take a normal to view. And let's begin by inserting a construction line. Activate the Offset Entities tool. The distance of our offset will be 1.1 millimeters. Let's check bidirectional and select Chain. Pin down the Offset Entities tool. We're going to need it again, and let's click OK. We'll create another offset. This time it'll be 0.18 millimeters. Tab to register. Let's remove the bidirectional option this time, and click OK, and close the tool. All right, let's apply some dimensions now. This distance will be 10.9 millimeters. OK. Now the length of the slot, 8.3 millimeters. OK. And the distance to the edge will be 2.46 millimeters. Accept and exit the sketch. OK, let's launch the Extruded Cut command. The depth of the extrusion, 1 millimeter. And let's accept the rest of the parameters as is. Insert another sketch on this face here. Convert entities. Exit the sketch. Extruded Boss command. This distance will be 0.55 millimeters. Tab to register. Let's give it a draft of 4 degrees. Accept. Now let's open the Fillet command. The radius of our fillet will be 0.24 millimeters. And we'll select this edge. Accept. Okay, let's take a look. So far, so good. And this concludes our tutorial about creating the SleepWake button. In our next lesson, we'll take a look at the ringer switch. Welcome back. In this tutorial, I'll be creating the ringer switch for the iPhone 5. Let's begin by inserting a new sketch. Take a normal 2 view. And I'll start with a centered rectangle. Let's smart dimension it now. We'll make this distance 6 millimeters. And this distance will be 2.52 millimeters. Now we need a position dimension. 16.86 millimeters here. OK. And 2.3 millimeters from the back panel. All right, let's apply a sketch fillet. The radius will be 0.5 millimeters. We'll select all 4 corners of our rectangle, and OK. Exit. Extruded cut. The depth, 0.6 millimeters. And accept. Let's insert another sketch now. Let's activate the Corner Rectangle tool. And we'll smart dimension it. 0.18 millimeters. OK. Same thing here. 0.18. OK. And this distance also 0.18. OK. 1 millimeter here. Let's bring in a sketch fillet. The radius will be 0.32 millimeters. And let's apply it to all 4 corners. OK, and exit the sketch. Let's activate the Extruded Boss command now. We'll make it 1 millimeter. OK. And lastly here, we need to apply a fillet. We'll give it a radius of 0.2 millimeters. And just select our edge. OK. And we've completed the ringer switch for the iPhone 5. Welcome back. This is tutorial number 6 on the iPhone 5, and in this lesson we'll be doing the volume buttons. Let's begin by inserting a sketch. Take a normal 2 view. And let me just adjust my panning. Okay. Activate the circle command, and let's drop 2 circles here. This one will be 4.8 millimeters in diameter. Okay. And this one will be 5 millimeters. Okay. And now we need a position dimension. This length will be 30.93 millimeters. Okay. And the distance to this edge will be 3.56 millimeters. Okay. Let's exit our sketch. Activate the extruded cut command now. The depth of our extrusion will be 0.5 millimeters. Okay. Let's raise the button up a little bit now. We'll insert a sketch here. Right-click, Insert Sketch. Convert Entities. And exit the sketch. Activate the Extruded Boss command. The depth will be 0.58 millimeters. And let's click OK. Actually, let's add a bit of a draft here, maybe 5 degrees or so. And accept. Activate the Fillet command. And I'll select this edge. Make the radius of my fillet 0.2 millimeters. OK. Since this will be the volume button, let's add some symbols, plus and minus. We'll use a centered rectangle. Wake up the center of the circle and drop the rectangle here. Smart dimension it at 3 millimeters. OK. And 0.6 millimeters. OK. Let's exit our sketch. Extruded cut. The depth will be 0.25 millimeters. Accept. To create the other button, let's use the linear pattern tool. First, I'll specify the pattern direction. I'll use this edge and the features to pattern. Make my selection from the tree. The number of instances will be 2. Distance, 10.25 millimeters. Click Accept. Lastly, we need to finish the plus sign. Let's awaken the center of this circle. Bring in another centered rectangle. And smart dimension it. 3 millimeters by 0.6 millimeters again. OK. And exit our sketch. Activate the Extruded Cut command. The depth will be 0.25 millimeters. And here are the volume buttons for the iPhone 5. Don't forget to save your work. We'll see you back in a moment. Welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll be creating the rear flash, the rear microphone, and the rear camera. Let's take a normal 2 view. By the way, if you want the sketch to turn normal to automatically, go to Options, Sketch Branch, and check Auto Rotate View Normal to Sketch Plane on Sketch Creation. Let's cancel out of the Options window. And let me zoom in a little bit. First thing I'll do is create the camera. Let's drop a circle. Diameter will be 6.46 millimeters. And let's apply the position dimension. 7.35 millimeters from this edge. OK. And 9.28 millimeters to this edge. OK. Exit the sketch. Let's activate the Extruded Boss command. Our extrusion will be 0.3 millimeters. Tab to register. Let's give it a draft of 45 degrees. Accept. Now let's insert a second sketch. Offset entities. The offset distance will be 0.15 millimeters. Let's reverse the direction by checking here and accept. And exit the sketch. Back to the extruded cut. It'll be 1 millimeter in depth. Tab to register and OK. Lastly, let's apply a chamfer. We'll select this edge, 1 millimeter distance, tab to register, and 50-degree angle draft. Tab to register, and accept. Let's start by inserting a straight slot. Let's check Add Dimensions, and just underneath that, select Overall Length. And I'll drop the slot about here. Now watch what happens. The overall length is 1.65 millimeters. So I enter that here manually. Tab to register. The slot width is 1 millimeter. Tab. So as you can see, I have a bit of a problem inputting the dimensions manually. Let's just accept and then edit the dimensions. We double-click on the slot to launch the Modify dialog window. Enter 1.65 and click Accept. Now we've got a slightly different set of problems. Basically, the length of the slot is smaller than the width. Let's enter 1 millimeter here. OK. And now everything looks fine. We need a position dimension. It'll be from this edge. I'll just grab the handle and move the dimension up here. Okay, let's double-click on the dimension. The value is 13.87 millimeters. Okay. Now the distance from the top, 7.35 millimeters. Accept. Let's exit the sketch. Activate the Extruded Cut command. The depth will be 0.5 millimeters. Accept. And bring in the chamfer tool. Let's select this edge. The distance will be 0.15 millimeters. Tab to register at 45 degrees. Tab and accept the chamfer. Lastly, let's create the opening for the camera. We'll insert a sketch, bring in the circle tool, and we'll place it right here. Now activate Smart Dimension. This distance will be 18.73 millimeters. Accept. Now the distance from the top edge, 7.35 millimeters. OK. And finally, the diameter of the opening, 3.2 millimeters. Accept. And let's exit the sketch. Activate the Extruded Cut command. The depth will be 0.75 millimeters. OK. And let's insert one more sketch. Right-click, New Sketch, deselect everything, offset entities, and select our circle. The offset distance, 0.25 millimeters, tab to register, accept the offset. Let's exit our sketch. Bring in the Split Line tool from the Curve submenu, select the face. The sketch is already pre-selected. Let's accept. And this concludes our tutorial about creating the rear flash, the rear microphone, and the rear camera of the iPhone 5. Welcome back. In this tutorial, I'll be creating more details on the back panel. Let's right-click and insert a sketch. Bring in the rectangle tool. And I'll drop the rectangle about here. Now let's smart dimension it. We'll make this distance 11.6 millimeters. OK. Same with this distance, 11.6 millimeters. Right-click and select. Select these two lines. Lastly, we need to reconnect. Let's exit the sketch. Bring in the split line tool. The sketch is pre-selected. Let's select this face and click Accept. This concludes tutorial number 8 on the iPhone 5 back panel details. Welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll be creating the tray for the SIM card. Let's begin by inserting a new sketch. Take a normal 2 view. And let's drop a straight slot about here. Escape to exit the tool. Now some dimensions. This will be 2.3 millimeters. OK. And this dimension, 15.57 millimeters. OK. Let's apply a position dimension, Smart Dimension tool. 53.7 millimeters from this edge. OK. And this distance will be 2.41 millimeters. OK. Offset entities. The distance of the offset will be 0.15 millimeters. Let's check here to reverse the direction of the offset. And OK. Lastly, let me drop in a circle. The diameter will be 1.2 millimeters. OK. Exit the sketch. Go to Extruded Cut. The depth of our cut will be 0.5 millimeters. Tab to register. And let's select the region. OK. Let's zoom to fit so we can take a better look at our work. This concludes our tutorial about creating the SIM tray for the iPhone 5. Welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll be building the audio jack. Let's take a normal 2 view. And let's zoom in a little bit. All right, activate the circle command. Drop it about here. Now Smart Dimension. First the diameter, 3.5 millimeters. OK. The distance from this edge to this point will be 10.46 millimeters. OK. And the distance from this edge to the center, 3.56 millimeters. OK, let's exit the sketch. Activate Extruded Cut. The depth will be 10 millimeters. OK. Now let's apply a chamfer. The distance will be 0.15 millimeters. Tab to register. We see a preview in the graphic area. Let's accept it. Let's create one more sketch. Right-click, New Sketch. And deselect everything. Offset entities. The offset distance will be 0.2 millimeters. And let's accept. Exit the sketch. Bring in the split line tool. Our sketch is already pre-selected. Let's select both of these faces and click Accept. And this concludes our tutorial about the audio jack for the iPhone 5. Welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll create the connector jack. Let's start by inserting a sketch. Now we'll bring in a center line. Let's awaken the center of this line and connect it to the center of this line. And here's our construction line. Now we can use the center of this line to place a center point straight slot. Accept, and let's dimension it. 8.05 millimeters. OK. And let's make this dimension 2.36 millimeters. Accept. Exit the sketch. Activate the extruded cut command. A 10 millimeter extrusion's fine. Accept. Let's apply a chamfer now. Select this edge. The distance will be 0.5 millimeters. Tab to register. And let's accept the chamfer. Let's insert another sketch. Right-click, New Sketch. Deselect everything, Offset Entities. And let's select all 4 edges. The offset distance will be 0.2 millimeters. Let's tab to register. And click Inside. Next, let's exit the sketch. Bring up the Split Line tool. The sketch is already pre-selected. Let's select the face here and accept. And this concludes our tutorial about creating the connector jack. Don't forget to save your work. Welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll be creating cosmetic screws. Let's begin with a right-click, Insert Sketch. Activate the Circle command, and let's drop a circle about here. Next, let's bring in a center line. We'll wake up the center point of this arc, connect it to the center point of our circle. Smart Dimension. From this midpoint to the center of the circle will be 6.4 millimeters. OK. And the circle's diameter, 1.6 millimeter. Press Escape to exit the Dimension tool. Let's select this center line and apply a horizontal relation. And we're ready to exit the sketch. Next, we'll need to create a split. The sketch is already pre-selected. Let's select this face and click OK. Now let's insert another sketch. Bring in a centered rectangle. We'll place the first one here, and a second centered rectangle here. Right-click, select. Control-select these 2 lines and add an equal relation. Same thing here. Control-select these 2 lines and apply an equal relation. And let's smart dimension our work. This will be 0.15 millimeters. OK. And here will be 1.3 millimeters. Let's exit the sketch. Activate the Extruded Cut command. And let's create select regions. The depth of the extrusion will be 0.15. Tab to register. And accept. Lastly here, we need to create a second screw. Control-select the split line, number 7, and the cut extrude. activate the linear pattern command. Select the pattern direction. The distance will be 12.8 millimeters. Tab to register. And let's accept the linear pattern. And here's our second screw. This concludes our tutorial about creating the cosmetic screws for the iPhone 5. Okay, moving right along. In this tutorial, we will create the opening for the bottom microphone and the speaker. Let's begin by right-clicking, New Sketch, and let's place a circle. Now let's apply some dimensions. This distance will be 9.3 millimeters. Okay. And the distance from the center point to this edge will be 2.5 millimeters. Now let's specify the diameter, 1 millimeter. Okay. Next, let's exit our sketch. The sketch is selected in our tree. Let's go to Edit, scroll down to Copy. And let's select this face. Now Edit and Paste. Okay, let's make some modifications to the sketch. Right-click, Edit Sketch. We'll have to place a position dimension. The distance from the center point to this edge will be 14 millimeters. And the distance from the center point to this edge will be 2.5 millimeters. Okay, and we're ready to exit the sketch. Activate the Extruded Cut command. Select our sketch. The extrusion will be 0.5 millimeters in depth. Tab to register. And accept. With the Cut Extrude selected, let's activate the Linear Pattern tool. For Direction 1, I'm going to select this line. Number of instances will be 5. Tab to register. And the distance, 1.5 millimeters. For Direction 2, I'm going to select this edge. The distance will be 2.13 millimeters. Tab to register. You see our preview in the graphic area, and let's accept. Okay, looks good. Let's make one more extruded cut. Select the sketch. Extrusion depth 0.5 millimeters and accept. Now let's activate the Linear Pattern tool. Direction 1 goes along this edge. Number of instances will be 8. For Direction 2, let's select this edge. We'll reverse the direction. The second distance will be 2.13 millimeters, and let's click Accept. And let's take an isometric view. And this concludes our tutorial about creating the speaker opening and the bottom microphone. At this point, the iPhone model is essentially complete. For the duration of this course, we'll be fine-tuning it, adding logo, text, and appearances. Welcome back. We're putting the finishing touches on our iPhone, and in this tutorial, we're going to put the Apple logo on the phone. I'm just going to be copying it from another document. Now, one little nuance to bring up before we get started. Let me left-click to insert a new sketch. Let's just select over here. New sketch. You see the place where I left-click? That's where the sketch is going to go. There's a small cross there to mark the spot. And that's where my logo will be placed. If you want to place the logo in a different location, just left-click in another spot, wherever your desired location is. All right, let's click Open. Here's my logo file. Let's select it and click Open. Now select the sketch, Edit, and Copy. And back to our document. Edit, and Paste. And here's the logo. Okay, let's go to the Sketch tab, select the Centerline tool, and let's wake up the midpoint of this edge. I'll drop my line about here, And let's dimension it using the Smart Dimension tool, 28 millimeters, accept. Press Escape to exit the tool. Let's window select the logo. Now go to Tools on the main menu strip. Let's go to Sketch Tools and select the Move command. Point to point. So let's select this point and we will snap it over to this point. And we're ready to exit our sketch. Bring in the Split Line tool. Select the sketch. And let's select the face. OK. And here we have the Apple logo. See you back in our next lesson where we'll be applying some text. Welcome back. In this tutorial, I'll be creating the iPhone text for the back panel. Let's start by inserting a new sketch. Take a normal 2 view. Let's zoom in a bit. Now let's create a construction line. Something like this. Let's connect midpoint to midpoint. Smart Dimension tool. We'll make it 14 millimeters. Accept and press Escape to close the tool. Let's apply a vertical relation between these two entities. Now dimension, this will be 37 millimeters. OK, and press Escape to exit the tool. Now let's activate the Text tool. And we'll type in our phone here in the Property Manager, iPhone. Next, let's select Sketch Segments. Alignment to center. And we'll select the font. I'll use Myriad Pro. OK. And exit the sketch. Extruded cut. The depth will be 0.05 millimeters. Tab to register and accept. OK, and that's the iPhone text for the back panel. We'll see you back in our next tutorial. Welcome back. This is our second tutorial about working with text on the iPhone. Let's start by inserting a sketch. Now we'll drop a construction line here. And here. Right-click and select Close the tool. Let's select this line and apply a vertical relation. And let's apply some dimensions now. 32 millimeters here. Accept. And something like 50 millimeters here. Accept. Let's activate the Text tool now. Let's select Sketch Segments first, in my case, this construction line. I happen to already have the text in my cache, so what I'm going to do is hit Ctrl-V and the text will appear in the text field here. So I've just pasted the text in. Now I'm going to need to change the font. It's got to be smaller, let's say 0.8, and OK. Let's accept and exit the sketch. Activate the Extruded Boss command. The depth will be 0.01 millimeters. And let's click Accept. This concludes our second tutorial about applying text to our iPhone. In our final lessons, we'll polish up our model with appearances, scenes, and final rendering. Welcome back. In this tutorial, I'll be applying appearances to our model. Let's begin by taking an isometric view. Appearances can be applied in a few different ways. We can right-click and select Appearances. We can apply it to the face level. Let's go to the Advanced tab here. Browse. And just navigate to where my file is located. I'm going to select All Files. Here's a JPEG of the iPhone home screen. I'll open that. Now let's save the Appearances file. Just click Save. Next, I'll go to Mapping. The size of my screen is 90.39 millimeters by 57.1 millimeters. My image is 904 pixels by 517 pixels. So in my case, I used Photoshop to get the image to the right size, and it does make my mapping job easier. I'm going to round up this number to 90.4. Tab to register. You may be wondering why I've rounded up like this. There is definitely a reason. This keeps the image size smaller. Otherwise, I need to use 9039 pixels, which, as you guess, makes the file size much larger. Okay, let's accept our work. And I'm going to zoom in a bit. Let's Control-select these three faces and select Apply Appearances to Face. As you see, all three faces are selected here. Let's use Metal, Chrome, and I'll select a chromium plate. Let's change the color to white and accept. Right-click, select chromium plate, and accept. Okay, let's go to the Display Manager. Here I can right-click on chromium plate, select Copy Appearance, right-click on the face where I want to paste it, and select Paste. Let's paste it again here. Back to the Feature Manager design tree. Let's scroll down. Extrude 7 and 8 are our text. Let's right-click, paste, and we'll paste the appearance to the lower text as well. By the way, you can copy appearances with a right-click, Copy Appearances. Another way to apply appearances is to grab the appearance and then drag and drop it. I just drop it right in the graphic area. I'll apply this at the body level. And let's zoom in a bit. Okay, let's go to glass. I'll drop in some clear glass. Just select the face. And select the face again. There we go. Let's apply the same appearance to the camera on the front. We'll just drag and drop it in, and then select at the face. Okay, let's take an isometric view. And let's turn on Real View Graphics. If you don't see the Real View Graphics option listed here, go to the SolidWorks website and download the correct driver for your graphics card, or it's possible that you might need to change your graphics card altogether if you see that it's not compatible with Real View Graphics. Lastly, to edit appearances, right-click, Edit Appearances, or you can click on the face and select Edit Appearance. I'm going to cancel out. And this concludes our tutorial about applying appearances to your model. Next, we'll be looking at Appearance Scene options. Welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll apply a scene to our model. Let's go to the Scene drop-down menu. Here's some scene previews. Let's check out Lightbox Studio. And as you can see, our scene has changed. Another way to do this is to open up Appearances, Scenes, and Decals. Here are the scenes. Let's expand this tree. Basic, Studio, and Presentation scenes. Let me double-click on one. I'll choose Reflective Floor. We can make changes to a scene. Just go to Scene Lights and Camera. Expand the branch. Let's right-click, Edit Floor Appearance. And let's go to the Mapping tab. Here we can adjust a number of parameters. To learn more about how this works and all of these parameters, Check out our course on SolidWorks PhotoWorks. We have covered all of this material in great detail in that course, so I'm not going to go over it again here. Okay, let's right-click and edit the scene. And here we have the option to set the background. We can use a color, for example, or an image. We can specify an environment image. And this is basically the image that's reflected from your model. Let me zoom in a little bit here. I'll just zoom in down to the home button below. As you can see here, I've got a reflection of a kitchen environment here. Down below, we've got floor parameters. We can grab and drag the floor up and down. Let's offset it back to 0, tab to register. I can align the floor in different ways if I want to also. It's on the Advanced tab that I specify the size of the floor, the depth. I can rotate the floor, rotate the environment, and so on. And let's cancel out of the Edit Scene Property Manager. We can also edit the lighting. Let's expand the Lights folder and just right-click on the light. And you can select Edit All Lights or Edit One Light, for example. Now I can grab the light and reposition all of the lights. I can adjust their brightness. When I'm done, I just go to the next light by clicking this Next button. As you see, the focus goes to the next light. Once again, we can adjust some parameters here like brightness, and I can grab the light and adjust its position. By the way, the focus doesn't have to be on that light for me to move it. See, I can just grab another light and move it as well. Let's cancel out of this Property Manager. To learn more about lighting schemes, do take the PhotoWorks course. I cover this in great detail in that course. And this concludes our tutorial about setting the scene for your model. We're almost done. One lesson to go. Welcome back. This is our final tutorial about modeling the iPhone 5, and I hope you enjoyed it. After we apply the decal and materials to our project, it's time for final rendering. And in SolidWorks, we do that with the PhotoWorks 360 utility. Let's bring it in, go to Tools, Add-ins, and let's check PhotoView 360. If you want this add-in active when you start SolidWorks, you can also check the box in the Startup column. Let's click OK. And as you see, PhotoView 360 now has its own drop-down menu in the main menu strip. Let's go down to Options. Here I can specify the output image size. And if I need to, I can also enter the size manually. I can specify the image format, and I'm going to use a JPEG. Under Render Quality, we specify the quality for the preview and for the final render. And of course, the higher the quality, the longer it takes to render, so keep that in mind. Let's check the Custom Render Settings box here. And once that's active, we can specify a number of reflections and refractions. We can also use contour rendering, and so on. Let's click OK. These same options can be accessed from right here as well. After we've set up our options, let's launch the preview window. Click OK. And here is our model render preview. SolidWorks has just finished the rendering. Let's close the window. Get back to our model. Let me just zoom in a little bit and run the preview again. And here it goes. After you're satisfied with your rendering, or let's say we go back and make some more adjustments, maybe the amount of reflections off of this face here. Let's edit the appearance and go to Lights. I'll change the reflection amount to maybe 0.1. OK. And let's go to the preview window again. OK, now it looks better. And let's close the preview window. Now I'm ready for a final render. Here's the preview window again. Now SOLIDWORKS begins the final rendering process. And once again, the time it takes depends upon the speed of your computer. We're just a little over half done now. Almost done. OK, and we're finished. To the right, we've got some options to check out. For example, advanced image processing, brightness, contrast, color saturation, etc. We can just adjust our image. If we have more than one image, we can compare the images side by side. And here we can also check some statistics. Let's close this window. And this concludes our tutorial about building the iPhone 5. We hope you enjoyed this course, and please check out the rest of our catalog at Video-Tutorials.Net.